KNAC.com. Thanks for checking in. Thanks for joining us. Francisco here. My guest today has just put out an amazing album entitled From Hell I Rise, appropriately, coincidentally, on Reigning Phoenix Records that has been gaining a lot of traction. Please welcome my guest, Kerry fucking King. How you doing, bro?
I'm cool, man. How are you?
Great, thanks. It's great to talk to you. Been such a long time fan. We are talking the new album From Hell I Rise, just recently released about a week ago. How does it feel to put out your first solo record?
Um, More of a relief than anything because I mean it's been in the can since the end of April last year. So a waiting game, waiting for all the pieces to fall into place.
Mhm.
Be it mastering, mixing, be it Reigning Phoenix getting their business in order. We wanted to put it out when all the pieces were right, so it gets delivered in the right way. People aren't waiting for it when they order it. Just making sure it's top notch all the way around.
The timing definitely seemed appropriate for this. I don't think it could have been released any sooner or any later. It just kind of hit just right. Has Even though like you recently kind of put this together, has this idea of putting out a solo record has been on your mind for a while?
It never occurred to me
Oh,
until Tom said, he was done touring. And when he was done touring, I'm like, well, I'm not going to try to talk you out of it because it's not cool to talk somebody into it when their heart's not into it. So I
sure.
said, well, now I've got to put my band together and continue.
Were these riffs that you came up with something that you had been playing around for a long time, or was it just something like, okay, now that I'm in writing mode, now I'm gonna decide to put my own record out?
Dude, there's a little bit of everything. Like Residue, for instance. I think I had the body of that song the last time Paul was in the band. And it just never had a beginning or an end. It just never had all the parts it needed, but I knew I liked the song, so I kept it.
Mhm.
And then this time during the pandemic, I made up the intro and the outro and put a little glue in it. And I'm like, that's what I was looking for. So you got stuff like that. You've got stuff left over from Repentless. You got a lot of stuff I wrote during the pandemic.
Mhm.
And now, for instance, record two still has stuff from Repentless, has leftover stuff from Hell I Rise, and stuff I've written since then. So there's tons of stuff I got to get to.
You say record two?
Yep.
You have another one already in the making?
I got demos of a lot of songs. I don't have any lyrics yet. I got some titles, but I got a lot of music.
That's awesome. That's great to hear. Yeah, this debut release, man, I gotta tell you, I've been cranking it like every day. And the fact that you put 13 tracks, not nine with an intro, even with an intro, 13 solid tracks, I think speaks volumes because a lot of bands got into this little habit of like just releasing 9 song albums. And like that just kind of really, it just falls short sometimes because of that.
Yeah, well, to me, growing up in the 70s and 80s, in the 70s, you basically got 10 songs. And that was it. Um, and there is a business reason for that.
Mhm.
But I was always used to that myself. So, I say, for instance, you don't count the intro. Say, for instance, you don't count Everything I Hate About You because it's only like a minute 20. Then you're at 11 songs, which is right around 10. So I felt comfortable with that. Like people definitely get value for what they're putting their money on.
It's an outstanding album, great production. Tell us behind the scenes who you worked with on this one.
Josh Wilbur produced it, and I couldn't be happier with his input.
Mhm.
He's a computer whiz, dude. He would set out. We'd be sitting at the desk, and he'd hear something he didn't like, and he'd just go back and forth like 5 times real fast and play me something. He's like, "How you like that?" And I'd be like, "Josh, I don't even know where you are, dude." He's so fast and so into it. He knows the music just like everybody in the band does, and he brought serious talent to what we were doing.
Between you and Paul Bostaph, I guess, were originally putting these songs together. How did that conversation, before we talk about the other members that you brought into this core team, like how did the conversation with Paul go as far as like, hey, I'm doing this, would you be interested?
It was super easy. I knew that Tom was done probably 4 to 6 months before the other guys did, because
Oh,
for whatever reason he just never told them. And we were getting ready to go do a photo session with the guys, and I said, "Listen, I told my manager, I said, I'm not going unless Tom tells these poor guys, what's up, because they deserve to know. So he did. And the next day we do the photos, and I went right to Paul and said, dude, don't worry for a second, because I'm continuing, and I assume you want to continue with me.
And I think for people to really appreciate this album, your work, they can't really look at it as a part two or an extension of your previous work. This like album stands alone, and I'm going on record on saying it's one of the best releases of 2024. So for someone to
I
appreciate
appreciate that.
that, yeah, of course, like someone really needs to appreciate this by looking at it as a standalone album. It's your child, man. You put this out, and amazing work so far. It's sounding great, and like I've seen over and over again. I watched the first show over at Reggie's in Chicago. Um, was there a little bit of nervousness, or how did it feel playing in such a small venue?
Definitely odd, because for the longest time I've been on big stages,
Yeah.
be it headlining or be it festival main stage, whatever. So getting into a tight place like that, it was weird. The funny thing, the weirdest thing for me is, and if you're not a guitar player, it's not going to make sense to you, but just getting used to stomping on my pedals again, like my overdrive or my wah, and figuring out when to do that and what part of the song and when to get out. That was the weirdest thing for me. Being in front of people, I loved it. It's been a long time. And I was very stoked to be there. But funny thing, it was just the weirdest thing for me was getting in sync with my pedals.
Relearning the experience again. Very cool. Now,
Yeah, just learning how to play and stomp on that damn thing, because I haven't done that in 5 years, so it was a little bit of a learning curve.
and I guess as the shows come along, you're still going to be learning this whole new aspect, right?
Yeah, everyone, like, we did 3 so far.
Mhm.
The third one was my best by far. It's just
Yeah.
it's like riding a bike, but there's you're getting used to playing new songs that you never played live before with a bunch of guys you've never been on stage before. So,
Mhm.
it's still feeling it out, kind of.
Sure, sure.
It's awesome, but you really got to think about what's going on stage. Like, I don't want to wear Kyle's bass on my head, just because I went the wrong way.
No, totally, I get it. Now, let's talk about the guys. This team that you assembled, how outstanding, like a super group, if you want to call it that. You got Mark on vocals, whose vocals are like really over the top on this one. You got
Crushing, right?
Phil crushing, yeah, totally. Once I first heard like his vocals, I was like, oh my God. Phil on guitar, and then you have Kyle on bass. Now, we mentioned like the conversation you had with Paul. How did the conversation start with these other guys?
Well, everybody from Mark to Phil to Kyle to Paul, everybody is a monster at what they do.
Mhm.
So I'm lucky to have all of them. They were all my first choice. So I got my A team, which, until you ask and start doing research, you don't know if that's going to come together. So luckily, all my dudes, there were good friends of mine, said, yeah. So the experience from the beginning is cool. Phil, he came out to Europe in the end of 2018 and did 4 shows for Gary Holt because his dad was sick. So he had to leave the tour. So we had Phil come out. And basically, at that point, every day, Phil said, I want to be a part of your future. Because by then he knew it was our last run. Because I want to be part of your future. And I think that's all we ever talked about. I don't even think I offered him a gig. I think it was just a unspoken thing from then on that he was going to be the guy.
Mhm.
And he was. And he's very it's very cool to have a second guitar player on stage that I admire. That's definitely got a different style than me. I
Mhm.
think it makes for a better product. I met Kyle at the 2015 Mayhem Festival when he was in Hell Yeah. And we hit it off, changed numbers and kept in touch. I never in a million years thought I'd need a bass player, because I never thought I'd be done. But when that time came, I texted Kyle, and it was when Hell Yeah was doing their last few shows, and without being insensitive to his situation, I texted him and said, "Hey man, I don't know what you're doing after this, but if you're still going to play and you still want to tour, I got something for you next year," which was probably 3 years ago. But all he said was, I hear you loud and clear. And we left it at that. So it was another kind of unspoken thing that, he was the dude. And then Mark, probably in 2020, and Mark, who I've known for off and on for 40 plus years,
Mhm.
or 40 years ish. In 2020, he just texted me. I don't know, maybe we were FaceTiming because it was during the pandemic, and we would
Yeah.
FaceTime and do shots together because we got a lot tighter in the last 10 years. And he says, I want to throw my name in the hat. So I
Mhm.
kept that in my back pocket for a long time. And then when me and Paul started doing demos, he would come down, I don't know, probably for 8 months or so, every 5, 6 weeks. And, he's the only guy that would sing on our demos. So we could actually see what direction it's going in. And every time he came in, he would do it better or sing songs that he hadn't sung before. And I finally gave him the gig February of last year. And then within 2 months, we were in the studio.
Very cool. And how long were you guys in the studio again?
Only 2 weeks.
Only 2 weeks. Wow.
Yeah. All music and vocals was done in 2 weeks. After that, we went to Josh Wilbur's home studio and, maybe polished up a vocal line here or there, but all performance was done in 14 days.
Wow, amazing. And as you're sitting there in the studio and this is coming to fruition in front of you, like what was going on? What was going through your mind?
Goosebumps all over my skin. um,
Awesome.
it's really electric. It's really fiery. And even though I've been around doing this for 40 years, I
Sure.
think it sounds pretty fresh.
Hmm. Almost like a new experience, totally.
It is, but nothing's really different. Uh,
Mhm.
Aside from this powerhouse of a band I got with me, but my last band was pretty good too.
Yeah, I kind of heard of that. Yeah. Uh, Speaking about like the studio time, like I mean, you've been in this for nearly 40 years. You've seen the change from the way it works in the studio, from like the analog stuff to the digital, and then kind of a little bit of a revisiting of analog style mixed with digital. Like, tell me about like your perspective from the approach that you've had to take and readjustments that you've had to make.
I honestly, I haven't had to change much. I mean, I think the work of the producer and how he approaches capturing the music has changed more than anything I've had to do, because
Mhm.
that is, the difference from going from tape and switching to Pro Tools. The Pro Tools experience with Josh Wilbur was amazing. He's so good at what he does, and he just knew the music as well. He's a big fan. For instance, Paul's doing drums. I'm in the drum room because I like to have eye contact with Paul for whatever reason.
Mhm.
And Paul's just doing this crazy fill. I couldn't tell you what song it was.
Mhm.
And there's obviously a glass between where we are and the studio where the producer is. And I just turn my head like Cheshire Cat, and I look in the control room just with big ass smile on my face, and the producers over moshing in the corner. So it was just a great environment.
That's amazing. We're talking with Kerry King. The new album from Hell I Rise recently released on Reigning Phoenix Records. Now that label again has been getting a lot of attention and has seemed to be doing everything right. How did that whole relationship start with Reigning Phoenix?
Well, the dude that's the head of the company in the American side was the guy that signed us to Nuclear Blast on our last record. And then I had every intention of staying in Nuclear Blast, but they got bought out by people that aren't necessarily metal oriented.
Oh.
Um, so my guy was, I don't know if pushed out's the right word, but
Mm.
eased out of his job. They had a settlement and everything, and I knew I wanted to be with him. So part of the holdup for getting this record out was him getting his business in order, getting Rating Phoenix started with his partner in Germany, and having all cylinders firing all at once.
Mhm. But this is going to be a breakout label this year. So congrats to them and congrats to you on this new record. Now
Thanks,
you
sir. I
have
agree.
some.
I agree with you on that.
Now you have some amazing shows coming up, all starting on your birthday coming soon. So pre happy birthday to you. You're
Thanks,
heading
sir.
out. You're heading out to Europe soon.
Yeah, man. Tilburg is our first European show. It's on my 60th birthday, and ironically, at the only venue I ever canceled in my life.
Oh wow! What was the cancellation?
I had vertigo.
Oh shit!
Believe it
Wow.
or not. Yeah, it was weird, dude. I had a perfect track record until that. And luckily we had two shows in a row, or I might have missed another show. Because if I had to travel, I don't know if I would have made it. I don't mean life or death. I mean, I don't know if I would have made that second show, but we were in town the next day, and I basically just stood on stage and played guitar because if I moved, I can't remember which way. If I turned right, I was good. If I turned left, I almost fell over, or vice versa. I can't remember which way it was, but it was a weird thing. For me to cancel a show, it's a big thing, and you can tell a career as long as mine, that's a very big thing to miss a show because I never did.
Yeah, that I can recall you guys never have. I mean, aside from like what all the cancellations maybe during the pandemic, but I mean, wow, interesting. Let's talk about health. Going on 60, man, you look you look outstanding for 60, bro. Like,
Hey man, that's what happens when you sell your soul, right?
yes, yes, that's the way to do it. Through all the party days, knowing that you guys were like heavy drinkers, the Jägermeister and the beer and everything, like how do you manage to still keep somewhat healthy and be able to do this for such a long period of time?
Well, to this day, I'm no stranger to water. Like when I wake up,
Oh, yeah.
I don't want a beer. I don't want a vodka. I don't want a Jaeger. I want water. I want to replenish so I can actually function during the day. I like to get things accomplished, be it music, whatever I have to do during the day. So, I know the difference between, party time and, let's be serious time. Long time ago, probably 30 years ago or better, I said, I'm not going to drink before a show because people paying to see me deserve me at my best. So,
Mhm.
that's out the window. So it's a small window of time that actually takes place, but the rest of the day, it's all business.
Sure, of course, of course. And I'm sure you're really engulfed in business right now, like all the interviews and stuff like that. But man, props
So
to
much
you.
stuff.
um, one I wanted to mention, and a shout out to my friend Lindsay out in the Netherlands. You'll be playing out in the Netherlands as well, right?
I believe so. I've looked at the dates, but you're in so many countries in such a short amount of time that I'm not positive, but I can't imagine not being there.
Yeah, so shout out to her. Hopefully she catches that. I'm gonna make sure she catches that because I'm gonna be just so jealous she's gonna catch that. But I will be catching you when you embark on the Lamb of God and Macedon tour. I'll definitely be there. I'm definitely interested in catching this vision that you have now of your solo project. Now, was there ever thought of giving it a name, or were you just cool with just putting your name, your stamp on this album and this, I guess,
I
band?
never wanted to use my name. It just
Huh.
kind of happened that way. Yeah, and the guys all knew that. I said, "Listen, guys, I'm not a vain person. Um, I didn't even want it. Felt like for a long time it was supposed to be called King's something, and I'm
Yeah.
like, I didn't even want that. But everything we came up with was a trademark issue. So when the festivals here in America wanted to, announce who's playing, we had to roll with something.
Yeah.
And the promoters and festival people were all like, "Well, your name speaks for itself. So how about if we roll with that?" So we did.
Yeah. No, it's true, true. And when your name is spoken, like the ears perk up, man. It's definitely. How about the Kingsmen? Would that be too cheesy?
Yeah, of course I thought of that, but yeah,
Yeah.
I think the movie blew that out of the water.
Oh man. We're talking with Kerry King from Hell I Rise, the new album on Reigning Phoenix record. 13 solid tracks. And I know it's easy to say like you love the whole album, you love every song, but are there some songs that are particularly your favorite?
It is super difficult, and if you asked me to do one, I probably couldn't do one. But I love the opener, "Where I Reign."
Mhm.
It's a great song to hit the stage to. Crucifixation is one of my favorites. Idle Hands, the first track, is one of my favorites.
Mhm.
From Hell I Rise. I like them all, but I mean the thrashier ones are probably my favorite.
Yeah. There was a bit of a punk rock vibe in some of the music as well, too, right?
Absolutely. Two Fists, especially. I wrote that intentionally to sound like it was a hidden track on some band's record you found in the 80s. So I approached the writing style like that. I approached the vocals like that. Um, like, say, for instance, some angry punk vocalist in the 80s wrote them. So those are probably the biggest stretch for me historically because some of the lines I wrote in that particular song I never would have wrote in Slayer just because I don't know. It wouldn't have seemed right. But this one, without a stamp of anything on it, I could pretty much do what I wanted. And I didn't want to do anything, drastically different, but, this punk anthemy song with the lines like, "This fucking ship's about to sink. I think I need another drink." I never would have said that in Slayer, but it's perfect in this song.
So the lyrics, you did most of the writing for those?
I did all of it. Yeah.
Idle hands was that kind of like, I guess saying like, you know, you don't want to, as they say, idle hands are the devil's plaything, right? And so you just want to, you were sitting there, I guess, itching to still do something because you still had this energy. Would that kind of be what idle hands was about?
Yeah, absolutely. And it works with the album title being From Hell I Rise.
Hmm.
The first single being, quite a traditional thrash song
Yeah.
and being called Idle Hands to the Devil's Work. It kind of just tells you where I've been for the last 4 years.
High horns and hails to everybody in the Kerry King camp and Reigning Phoenix Records. Wanted to touch on a couple of things. A few years back, I ran into you at a reptile convention. You happen to have a booth there. Are you still into the reptiles?
I'm still into it, but I got rid of everything when I moved to the East Coast because
Mhm.
just moving all that would have been a nightmare, would have been crazy expensive, and it would be crazy expensive to upkeep here on the East Coast. So
Mhm.
no, I bowed out of that. I'm a full-time musician again.
Oh, I would have loved to have gone like a snake or a reptile from you, but yeah, but that was cool running into you like so randomly. And yeah, I did read up on a Revolver that you had moved out to New York now.
Yep.
Yeah, how's I mean, is have you ever lived in New York for a long period of time, or is this the first time?
No, first time, I've been here probably more than any other city in the world, but I never took time to understand anything about the city or where things were. So now I've got all that under my belt.
And you were in Vegas for a while, right?
A little bit.
Yeah.
We went there, I think, in 2019, and we moved out here in 2021,
Hmm.
I think.
Okay. And maybe my last question: how do you think our Raiders are going to do this season?
Can't you get a better question than that? I like Pierce. I think he made some mistakes last year.
Mhm.
Um, I think he should have got a better offensive coordinator because, you know, the Bears were no offensive dynamo and they obviously sent their quarterback packing. So hiring an offensive coordinator that was on a mediocre team doesn't make sense to me. Matt Crosby is going to be dynamite. We
Oh
got
yeah.
the other defensive lineman from Miami, so the double teams will get spread out a little bit, so that's good. But if we have an offensive line that could keep Minshew on his feet, yeah, I think we might be better than 800. We'll see.
Yeah, yeah, we were just a game short of making the playoffs last year, man. It really bummed me, man. But I'm looking forward to this season already, and who knows? Maybe I'll run into you at a game sometime in the future. But
Oh yeah, I still got my seats.
you still got your seats. Yeah, I constantly see you on the screen with Brian Slagle there, which is awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah. How's Brian doing? I'm curious. What was his thoughts on this new album and your new venture?
I played it for him probably 6 or 8 months ago
Mhm.
at his house, and he's like, I just got goosebumps, man. So he's still a super fan. He's still into it. He was very into it when I played it for him. He sent me congratulations when it came out, so he's stoked on it.
Hails to Brian Slagle as well. A big part of your legacy and just metal as a whole. Kerry King from Hell I Rise on Reigning Phoenix Records. I'll put all the information in the description here on where to purchase the album, where to purchase merchandise, and all the tour dates coming up. Kerry, I want to thank you for your time. Again, a long time fan. And high horns and hails to everybody on your side of the fence. And I look forward to seeing you with Lamagon and Macedon.
I always got time for KNAC, dude. You're welcome.
Thank you, man. Much respect. KDC respects you totally. And any words you want to tell your fans?
Just if we're not coming near your neck of the woods soon, we'll be there sometime. Well, this is probably all we're doing here this year, but early 2025 for sure. So keep looking. We will be near you at some point.
Thank you, sir.
Coolness. Cheers.
Cheers.